Hey everyone, thanks so much for tuning in. In today's video we're going to be taking a look at the Microtech Anax, or Anax, not entirely sure, but I'll call it one or the other throughout the video. I do know that this knife has been thoroughly reviewed at this point, but my friend Patrick was kind enough to send it to me to take a look at, and so of course I'm making a video on it. But we'll go through the normal format, specs, overall impressions, details. First, let's take a minute to talk about the packaging for this particular knife. The packaging for this knife is exceptional, and it did create quite a debate on various platforms regarding the cost of the packaging versus presentation. Basically, the two arguments were, one, people loved the packaging, they thought it was amazing, or the other, that people thought that the packaging was over the top and potentially added cost to the knife that they felt was unusable or unnecessary because the packaging just sits in a basement or in a closet or on a shelf or something like that. But the packaging here, kind of a carbon fiber looking box. You have a large Microtech emblem on the outside. It says Marfione Custom Knife here on the magnetic closure tab. Logo again on the inside. And then the bag itself, you do get a metal patch of sorts. You do have another kind of bead here that can be taken off and used on a lanyard. And then you have the really nice zipper pouch with the Marfione signature, as well as a certificate of authenticity that was actually signed by Marfione, it seems. So, certainly one of the best presentations that I have seen. And, whether or not it's worth it, I'm going to say that it probably is. If you look at a large company like, let's say, Apple, that has been commercially monstrously successful for, I don't know how many years running now, they place a very large emphasis on the presentation and the initial experience of the item. And there's a significant amount of research as far as consumer goods go that show that the initial impression that you form with the object when first taking it out is something that typically sticks with you and really sets pace for the brand. So, did this add to the cost? Probably did. Is it worth it? For someone who's jumping into this price range, I would say that it absolutely is. Any other high-end goods, watches, things like that, they also place a large emphasis on packaging, presentation, initial experience. But anyways, that's enough for the packaging. Some of you have probably already tuned out. But let's get to the knife itself. So of course, this is a titanium subframe lock knife. It does use the integral construction method. It is on bearings. And while they call it a custom division, the blades might be ground by Anthony Marfione. I really don't know, but this is more of a production standpoint, considering that most of it is probably done on a machine. With an integral handle, absolutely it's done on a machine. So from a production standpoint, this knife probably deserves more credit as being the first large-scale production knife on bearings that is produced in an integral frame. So there's a lot of anticipation for the upcoming Spyderco Nirvana, which is an integral on bearings as well. But in reality, from a production standpoint, this knife has preceded that upcoming knife by, probably at least 2 years by the time the Nirvana comes around. There's also an upcoming, I believe it's called the PERS model from Custom Knife Factory, which will also be an integral on bearings. But anyways, so that is a really interesting point with regard to this knife. I think a lot of people lump this into a custom knife, and so they don't really think of it that way, but I thought that was worth giving credit where credit is due. So specs, let's get into it finally. So we're looking at a blade length of 3.75 inches, a handle length of about 4.8 or so, overall length of about 8.6. The blade steel on this particular one is Elmax, and it is a hollow ground blade. So this knife weighs in at about 5.3 ounces. Tip up right hand carry only. Again, integral construction, very impressive, very cool. And yeah, opening method is the large groove or blood fuller, whatever you want to call it, in the blade. So really, really cool construction. Various opening methods, but yeah, let's see. Handle thickness, one of my other important measurements, is about 0.49 inches, so just about that half an inch mark there, which is certainly a good thickness for carry as well as comfort in the hand. So this particular one has a stonewash. There are quite a few variants now. There's some with Tonto blades in lieu of the drop point here. There are some that are done in polished Max, some in Damascus, kind of the whole gamut there. There's quite a few different models now, different finishes, and certainly different price points. So in regard to price point, when these were first offered at Blade 2014, there was kind of an introductory Blade Show price of $500, and pretty soon thereafter the same knives were going for like $1,500, maybe even up to $1,700 on the secondary market. But these days, like this kind of the base model can be had, I think, for somewhere in about the $700 range, maybe a little more, maybe a little bit less, just depends on where you get it and how motivated the seller is to sell it. So yes, all right, a few other specs. Again, so this is like the first large-scale production that uses an integral with bearings, ceramic bearings, and there are stainless steel racers on the inside that protect the titanium frames from the ceramic bearings. So this thing really is spec'd out with the best of the best components. And yeah, let's see, anything else from the spec standpoint? I'm going to talk about the lanyard a little bit later. I think this deserves quite a bit of discussion, but for the specs, that's pretty much it. Overall impressions, let me first say that I am not really a Microtech fan. I have seen and handled a lot, and I've had friends who've had quite a few, and there seems to be quite a large inconsistency with quality control. And not every one of you is going to have had that experience. Some of you might say everyone you've had has been perfect, but from what I have seen and what my friends have had, I have seen quality control issues ranging from base models all the way up to some of the custom models that go for well over $1,500, and many of which I've handled as well. So I'm not necessarily a Microtech fan. I'm kind of wary of the brand, but I will say without question that this is an exceptional knife. And everyone who's gotten one has pretty much said the same thing. I have not heard nor have I seen any quality control issues, any problems with anyone getting any iteration of this model. So whatever it is they did with this model, they nailed it the first time, and everyone has been very, very happy with this knife. So again, it's an exceptional knife. It has so many interesting details. I think this is really going to be an iconic model for Microtech, much as their OTFs are. I think years to come, this will be a base model or a standard model that we continue to see iterations of, but really, really, really cool knife. So I'm not a fanboy, but I will say it's exceptional. So those are my overall impressions. Let's get into the details then. So beautiful hollow ground blade. The large blood groove functions as the opening method, so you can use your thumb, roll it open. You can use your thumb and kind of flick it. You can use your middle finger on the back of the blood groove here, flick it open that way. So, or if you just want to use a two-handed opening method, maybe you're old school, boom, that works just as well. And on the ceramic bearings, exceptionally smooth. It just drops freely. So there's also kind of a protrusion here in the front. If you get it just right, you can roll it open that way. I don't know if that was done by design or a happy coincidence, but it's almost like a front flipper of sorts. This does have a little bit stronger detent, which is great for opening, but as far as like a front flipper, generally you want a little bit lighter detent. So you can kind of flick it out that way too. It's a little bit rough on the thumb, but it's doable. So again, another opening method. Now, jimping, exceptional. You do have kind of the large spacing ones here, provides a good amount of grip, not sharp, locks the thumb in pretty well. And then up at the top you do have the 2 runs of the kind of finer, smaller jimping if you want to get it higher up on the blade, and that works exceptionally well too. I mean, both, they're different types of jimping, but both work just really well. So perfect. The top of the blade has been rounded here past the jimping. Very nice, you know, kind of interactive feel to it. I mean, anytime you end up with a rounded spine of a blade, you just can't help but touch it. It's a very visceral experience, so I really like that as well. Let's talk about the frame then. Hardware, custom hardware, extremely attractive and consistent throughout the entire knife. So the pivot has that pattern. I don't even know what that is. I can't really describe it, but it continues throughout the body screws, well, the body screw for the stop pin here, as well as the screws for the pocket clip, the subframe lock, and then the stainless steel lock insert on the titanium subframe lock, as well as the other side of the pivot. So really cool custom hardware found all the way throughout the knife. But I don't know if you'll be able to see it here, but there's also some machining in the handles, so they're not completely flat. They're essentially grooved, which seems to aid in comfort in the hand. Maybe a little bit. It's nicer than, here you can see it, it's nicer than a completely flat handle would be, but you know, that's definitely some machine time there. Makes it more interesting. Yeah, really cool. Integral knives are always really cool. He went ahead and added these divots or golf ball hole, I don't even know, these patterns along the back. Again, just instead of leaving it bare, it's an interesting aesthetic element. The Microtech logo here on the back of the knife, and the blade is left completely sterile except for my fingerprints there. But yeah, it didn't mar up this beautiful design at all. Very tastefully done logo, no question. So even the stop pin is very beautiful, very attractive. There's more jimping on the frame right here. Doesn't really do anything, but it does kind of tie in the jimping on the blade to the handle a little bit. Perhaps it was meant to be functional. It does have an aesthetic tie-in. Now, there is a subframe lock. So as you can see, assuming that you had the proprietary hardware, which, as I understand, is quite hard to get and quite expensive, certainly a downside, you can remove this lock bar and put in a new one should something happen to maybe the spring tension, or I don't know, something catastrophic happen to it. You could also just simply remove the stainless steel lock insert and put in a new one. So engagement, probably about 50%, no lock stick whatsoever, fairly easy to disengage. There is a cutout here. It allows you to get to the lock bar a bit easier, a little bit of kind of jimping or texturing there, so it makes disengagement fairly painless. So yeah, also a little bit of texturing here, so when you've got it in the standard grip, I suppose, it does kind of catch your first finger a little bit, so a little more control, a little more secure grip. But yeah, pocket clip, as Anthony Marfione mentioned, this was borrowed from Todd Begg, and Todd Begg said that was fine. It does use a silicon nitride ball, which is very smooth, in and out of the pocket without any problems. Again, this is a great design by Todd Begg, so it works well on this knife. So, alright, let's talk about this lanyard system. I think this is quite possibly one of the most innovative features on the knife. I'm sure many of you know what it is, but basically you have a stainless steel kind of braided cord here, and then you have a connector piece, and it basically screws in and out. So some of the really cool things are, one, this allows you to attach a lanyard without leaving big holes in the handle, which again looks nicer. The other thing that I really like is the ease with which you can take on and off. Tying lanyard loops and so forth, or tying lanyards on knives, is its own thing altogether, and you have guys that know how to do these crazy different weaves and put on different beads. And for some, it's a lot of fun and they really enjoy it, and for others, it's kind of a pain in the butt or a daunting task if they want a really cool lanyard. But the thing that I really like is the ease with which you can take it on or off. I also really like the fact that this is metal, and so unlike the material ones, when you open and close the blade, this isn't like getting down in the way of the blade path, which is the reason that I don't like lanyards. So that's really cool. And then, as Anthony Marfione mentioned, this was meant to be a modular system, so you could get different ones. You could put different, I guess, like he mentioned charms, but maybe different pieces on here. I think the downfall with this particular one, and the reason a lot of people complained about it, was simply that this is a sharp, very attractive kind of bead of sorts, but it's sharp. This actually pokes you. So as this is in your pocket, this can come up and poke your hand as you try to reach for it, or worse yet, if it digs into your side. So brilliant concept. I absolutely love it. I look forward to different ones that are not sharp at the end. Maybe more roundish or squarish. I mean, the sky's the limit. So I think this deserves more credit. I don't know if he's the first to do it. I think he is. But yeah, just an exceptional knife. Current price point, definitely worth it. Camera's about to run out. Thanks so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you guys soon. Take care.